2020 was the best year for video games ever. I could never decide what to play, and when I did, I would feel guilty I wasn't playing something else. But the games that I did play were all some of the best that I've ever played. So I thought I'd look back and recognize my 5 favorite games that came out this year. First is Ghost of Tsushima. Ghost came out right before I was forced to quarantine for 2 weeks and was a great companion for that time. The island of Tsushima was one of the most gorgeous game worlds to visit this year. Besides some stunning landscapes, Ghost also has some epically beautiful, cinematic moments full of color. The highlights of the game for me, though, were its intense one-on-one duels and phenomenal side quests that were sometimes more interesting than the main story itself, all supported by a fantastic cast of characters. It all adds up to make Ghost of Tsushima an excellent experience that any fans of samurai or open-world games should absolutely play. Next is Animal Crossing New Horizons. I've always been a huge fan of the Animal Crossing games, but New Horizon could not have come out at a better time. Right when everything started shutting down, Animal Crossing connected us again. Building up my town was the perfect distraction and kept me coming back for months. Getting familiar with my villagers and working with my family to get everything in our town pitch perfect made the days fly by and the early months of quarantine feel a lot shorter than they otherwise might have. I owe a lot to the Animal Crossing series, but for sure the most to New Horizons and the fun times, laughs, and stories it gave me this year. Thirdly, we have Final Fantasy VII Remake. Final Fantasy VII means so much to the people who played it 20 years ago and the games industry at large. So by all means, with how remakes typically go, 7 Remake should have been a disappointment on all fronts. But Square in a lot of ways improved on the original with some welcome additions and changes, while still giving us those big nostalgic moments, memorable characters, and amazing soundtrack we know and love. Exploring Midgar in 3D was better than I could have even imagined, and the new combat system was a blast to play. Final Fantasy VII Remake delivered beyond the already high bar that was set for it, and has made me so excited to see where they go with the rest of this story. Whether you're a huge fan of the original or have never played a Final Fantasy before, Final Fantasy VII Remake was one of the best games this year. My second favorite game this year is the sequel to my favorite game of all time, The Last of Us Part 2. The original game stands on its own and I never expected a sequel, but when Part 2 was announced, I couldn't wait to see the next chapter for Joel and Ellie. What Naughty Dog delivered was a jaw-dropping, emotional roller coaster that to me is about loss and what it can do to someone. Controversy around leaked story moments and other news surrounding the game created a lot of toxicity towards it online. But ignoring that, The Last of Us Part 2 is a massive accomplishment. Naughty Dog repeatedly pushes the game industry forward in character, performance, storytelling, graphical fidelity, and so much more, and all of its staff should be applauded for that. When I was playing through Part 2, it was all I wanted to do. I needed to see what happened next. But there is one game that came out this year that took over my life just a little bit more, and that I thought was the closest thing to a perfect game we got this year. My Game of the Year 2020 is Hades. I can't come up with a single criticism that could be made against Hades. It's just that good. The first thing that you notice is the classic Supergiant art style that somehow gets better with every game they make, and has again with Hades. Next is its gameplay. Endlessly addicting 30-minute runs that can be so different every single time and allow for countless possible combinations of weapons, abilities, and upgrades. Every run makes you just a little bit stronger, from the resources you've gained and new things you've learned. And then, in between your escape attempts through the underworld, is an awesome story that unfolds in bits and pieces with the best cast of characters in a game this year. You can choose which characters to spend more time with and learn more about, which will all color your experience with Hades and your thoughts on this great adaptation of Greek mythology that Supergiant has created. And underneath it all is another incredible score by composer Darren Korb. Supergiant makes nothing but excellent games and has created a masterpiece with Hades, which has easily become my favorite game this year and one of the best games that I've ever played. So with possibly the greatest year for games ever, what games managed to grab your attention? There were so many that I haven't gotten around to, so let me know where I should start. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. Please subscribe to help my channel grow and see what I make next. I'm Shimshazar, and I'll see you next time.